Okay, so everybody, welcome. My name is Kelly Flynn. I'm the CEO of Kiksasa, and welcome to Mastering Outsourced Development and How to Navigate Pitfalls to Achieve Amazing Results. I'm here with Ronak Shah and Tim Chalk. Ronak, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly?
Sure. Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, team, for having me here with you on this webinar. Hello, this is Ronak Shah. I'm the CEO of Agile Infobase, and we are a software development company with onshore and offshore presence in several offices in the US and the another offshore development center in India. We're 18 years old company with about 230 plus people on board and highly involved with a lot of custom software engineering projects, large AI implementation projects. We work with big healthcare, real estate, e-commerce, a lot of startup companies, and we are an AWS partner. We are also ServiceNow partner, we are Odoo partner, and we are also an ISTQB certified company. So yeah, thank you, team and Kelly. This is just a very brief of who we are.
Thank you, Ronak. Tim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Tim Chalk, co-founder and CTO of Kiksasa, with nearly 25 years of engineering experience at both startups and large enterprises. I've worked with offshore, onshore, nearshore contract teams, literally from all over the world. So looking forward to sharing my knowledge here.
And again, my name is Kelly Flynn. I've also worked for over 25 years, but on the product side of things. So I help organizations and companies build elite products and have been working in startups for over 25 years and outsourced to every continent other than Antarctica at this point. So what we wanted to do is really explain. Tim and I very often get founders coming to us and saying, listen, I don't know what's going on with my dev team. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if I'm getting any great quality. I really just don't understand what's going on with my team. And we've heard it enough times now that we've decided to go ahead and do this webinar just because we want to be able to explain how we run our dev teams, how we operate dev teams, how we select dev teams, and how you can kind of avoid some of the pitfalls that we often have. So to give you clarity, application is actually, Kiksasa is designed for helping startups specifically. It supports the entire startup community, and Ronak's team in Outsourced ways has actually been the one building it for us for the last year. So we have kind of a very unique background from that standpoint. We're worked together for quite a while. We've known Ronak for 5 years now. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges of building early stage startups, especially when founders are first starting out. So one of the things we find out more so often than not is that founders don't know what they don't know, which is to say, it's not that they're making horrible mistakes. They just don't know what they're coming in with. Tim, can you talk a little bit about what that actually means? You're on mute, Tim. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, as Kelly said, a lot of founders don't know what they don't know. They have an idea. They might even have the beginnings of a plan or a business plan. They've talked to people about it. They don't even know where to get started. They'll seek out oftentimes incubators or accelerators. And even then, that's based on advice that's easily obtainable online. But from there, they still don't really know where to go. And one of the most important facets of building a startup is, of course, building your product itself. And that's why we're here today, was talk about how to find the right team to go about that process of building your application or building out your idea.
Ronak, can you tell us a little bit about what, from your perspective, being on the dev side of things, what it's like to have a new founder who doesn't have a whole lot of experience yet with dev coming to you to ask about hiring a dev team or ask about your dev services?
Yeah. So we basically work with a number of startups across United States, and we see a number of startups who are coming up, and they really, they come up with the product idea, but they don't really know what the tech journey means for them. Definitely they're a business idea, entrepreneur, and ideas are great, but they're not really necessarily a tech people. So they come to the companies like us, and then they look for the overall journey that will help us from taking their product idea all the way developing to the overall architecture, infrastructure, developing the whole product and launching that product into the cloud infrastructure or something, So they usually come and they look for a company who is going to handheld them all the way through the journey. And there are two parts that what we have seen is, so a number of startups, they come with funding and they took for a full-blown partner. Or there are other companies, they come for just a minimum viable product that they want to design, and then they are going for fun. So there are two different types of audiences that we deal with, and both of them really need to find the right fit. And the most important part, I would say, in this first question of you is they definitely, when they are going to find a company, these either they are outsourcing it or even they are working with any company locally here, they definitely need to look at their top management experience, who is running that company. Is the CEO or CTO, what kind of experience they bring on board? That's very important. So, sometimes they may find a company who is probably little cheaper but if they only have 2 or 3 or 4 years of experience, that means the team of people or the owner or the CEO or the team is not experienced enough to handle a large level of projects. So you definitely need to find a company where the top level management is very, very mature. And the second thing I would really emphasize, if you think that your product is going to go to a whole different level, let's say right now you may think that, okay, I will only have 500,000 users, but you think that the later part, you're going to have 1,000, 100,000 or 500,000 people going to use your system. Very important part, choose a company who is at least certified in some level. I'm not saying it could be, has to certify, but company who is certified, either let's say AWS certified or Microsoft certified or any kind of certification, it means that really brings a whole lot of value to the project execution process as well. Kelly?
Yeah, I think that's actually really important. I think another thing too is being honest with your own skills and background. Just because you're a startup founder doesn't mean you have to know anything about development necessarily. In fact, most of the founders that Tim and I worked with over careers don't have development backgrounds. But oftentimes they aren't exactly honest with themselves about exactly where their limitations are on that and bring in the right help for evaluating a team. In terms of, have you written requirements before? If you don't have the right technical requirements, that's okay, but make sure that you get a team that knows how to do that for you and that you gel with enough so that they can interpret what you're trying to explain to them about, oh, I want it to be blue over here and green over here, that they'll be able to actually translate that into code for you. Make sure that you know something about the tech that you're writing. We've seen many founders that have written code for an application that doesn't actually match what they're trying to build and doesn't have scale or doesn't have anything else because they did it because it was inexpensive to do it that way, or it shortened the lead of the product. That's fine for an MVP, but make sure that you have a way out of that and you have a team that can expand and grow with you.
Yeah, so Kelly, just to add on to that point, since you're mentioning about the scope requirements, and it's very true that number of startup founders, they can't really write the technical requirements, or they don't really have an experience of writing the real detailed scope document along with the data flow diagram. So I would strongly suggest, whichever company you're working with, try to involve the business analyst of that company in this process. The BA, those are the right people who is a bridge between the founder and the technical team. So business analysts would basically understand the requirement or the scope document in detail from the founder, and then they would put everything into the detailed scope document along with the DFD, which is a data flow diagram, and then there will be a number of interactions with the founder, and they will explain the overall detailed documentation to get their approvals before that gets handed over to the technical team. So this basically eliminates any kind of gaps, because if the founder is speaking directly to the technical team, there are chances that the tech team may even miss some of the things which founder would really needs to have it. So the business analyst is the right people to be involved in the beginning process.
Yeah, exactly. Tim, can you tell us a little bit about the value of a great BA? They're really kind of the heroes of a project sometimes.
Right. And everybody, going back to Kelly's discussion about knowing your own skills, some founders are able to talk at the technical level, some are not, and that's fine. As long as the founders can talk about what they need out of their product, then the BA is there as a translator. They are the ones who are experienced and very capable in speaking both the business language of what do you want to accomplish, what do you want your application or your project to do for your end users, and translating that into the technical implementation that's needed by the engineers. You don't want to have miscommunications there, because then you could end up wasting a lot of time, things that are built in the wrong direction. Engineers who are maybe not experienced on the business side, who are misinterpreting requests from the founder, or the founder is miscommunicating their ideas to the point that the development team might spend an awful lot of time overbuilding something that's completely unnecessary, or not planning for the future. The BA is also responsible for understanding the big picture of the project, so that when they talk to the development team, they can keep the team moving in a direction that's always moving towards the end goal. Many times the engineers, onshore or otherwise, have their blinders on and are focused on what the next 2 weeks looks like, not necessarily what the next 3, 6, 12 months look like. The BA is there also to help keep them on track and always moving in the right direction.
And unfortunately, we've seen all too many dev teams that come up without a BA, where the customer says, or the client says, hey, I don't need a BA, I just need developers, and that's it. And I know we have seen projects that have gone hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget, largely because there wasn't somebody watching the development and how it matched to the requirements and helping work with the client to narrow down requirements. So you can make a project much longer and much more expensive very easily, just by not bringing in somebody who knows it.
Yep, very true, Kenny.
So let's talk a little bit about how you choose where to outsource, because right now it's a global economy. You can outsource pretty much anywhere, to any country, any continent. Outsourcing can cost anywhere between $25 an hour blended up to $150 an hour outsourced. And outsourcing isn't necessarily to faraway lands like India, for example. We have our dev team. It can be right here, what we call onshoring. So it can be an outsourced team that actually sits here in the United States. It could be a nearshore, which means they're geographically closer in timelines, and time zones. So usually that's Latin America, Canada, or South America, or it can go further away. Let's talk a little bit about kind of how you choose where exactly in the world to do your outsourcing. One of the challenges that really comes up right off the bat is time zone alignment. When you've done enough outsourcing, you can do the 9.5 hours to India in your head without thinking about what time it is. But fundamentally, when you're working, the further away you get from the United States, for our U.S. audience, the further away you get from the United States, the further away you get in time zones, which means that instead of dealing with the 3 to 4 time zones in North America, you're instead dealing with time zones that scatter all over the place. Tim, why don't you talk a little bit about how you manage development when your developers potentially are all the way across the world?
Right. And I've experienced both the nearshoring and offshoring, and even simultaneously. Well, I have some engineers who are offshore, some that are nearshore, some that are onshore, all trying to build this new product at the same time. You have to enable those teams differently, because you have to understand what the communication patterns are. If you're working with a team that's truly offshore, you have to make sure that they have enough information for the entire following day. You may not be available in the middle of the night in a US time zone to answer questions, and you don't want the team to be just completely blocked in the middle of the night and then sit around for 4 hours without work to do because they're blocked. You typically will want to make sure that you have, for example, some backup assignments. If they are truly blocked on a mission critical project or a task or story, that's okay, and that'll happen at times, but you can always have some additional work and make sure that there's a diversification of that work. So if they're blocked, they have another project to move on to. They can do some testing, some automation, some process, some bug fixing. There's always something else to do, as every founder knows. So have a few things like that queued up. Whereas nearshore, you have that option to be available much more frequently and on demand for your team. But of course, that means you have to prepare for that too. You have to know that any time during the day, you might get pinged by your nearshore team or your onshore team to jump in, answer questions provide assistance and direction pretty much at any time during the day.
Now, our chief, go ahead, Ronak.
Sorry, yeah, just want to add one quick thing to Tim's comment here is, so we work with number of clients either in Eastern time zone or Central time zone, and our whole lot of development takes place in our India offices. Definitely, we have a top level management who is assigned from here as well. And usually the way we do is, we try to be available till 1 p.m. Eastern, no matter what. All around the year, 1 p.m. till 1 p.m. Eastern, we overlap the time. So client exactly knows that, okay, from morning 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. Eastern, my team is with me, so they have a predefined calls. We have a stand-up calls with number of clients every day, and we follow the agile methodology, Scrum processes. So client exactly know what team is going to do for next sprint. So the sprint planning is for at least 2 weeks ahead of time. And then the daily stand-up call, they exactly know, okay, here is the issue, we are stuck, or here is what we're going to work on tomorrow's timeline. So if you plan ahead of time, this is a perfect environment, so like till 1 p.m., you're fully covered. And after 1 p.m., you can actually focus on your own stuff that you need to do up to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. you work, So, yeah, that's how we are managing our workload with our offshore team in India.
Yeah, I think it's actually really important to realize that too. I know for us, we have our dev team meetings at East Coast time. So we have our dev team meeting starting at 8:30 in the morning, and Tim meets with our dev team during that time. But we've also had times where we've done all hands kind of meetings with our dev team specifically, and where we have the entire dev team plus all of the folks on our side of the business. We will meet at midnight on that night to go ahead and have a call on their time. So an important cultural thing is to make sure that you're not just throwing all of the weight of time zone alignment and cultural alignment onto your dev team to manage. You're partners with them. The more you treat them as partners, the better code, the better service you get out of them. So sometimes meeting in the middle of the night, great. So
yeah,
let's talk a little bit on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's a perfect thing. What you mentioned is one quick thing to educate the people who are looking at this is whenever you choose your team, whether you choose in South America or Europe or India, wherever, emphasize that team to work in their daytime, in their time zone. Hey, make sure you do the coding in your daytime. They should only overlapping with you guys in your daytime for meetings or Scrum calls or the overall project progress or planning. And that really brings a lot of great outcome in terms of the overall code quality and the overall project quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's a matter of partnership. But let's talk a little bit about culture too, because culture does really very much impact how you choose your dev team, but also how you work with them too. There's a couple of things there. First of all, language. Depending on how comfortable you are with accents, can really impact how you actually run a dev team and how you work with each other and how well things turn out. A lot of Americans, we tend to be lousy with accents. That's what it really comes down to. I have found that, if most people will adapt to an accent fairly quickly if they listen to it enough. And actually, I've even counseled people that, if you're going into a country where you're not familiar with the accent, the language, and such, spend some time watching YouTube videos in that language. Spend some time exposing yourself to the accent, because if you get the accent, it makes it easier to understand. What are some other kind of cultural impacts and cultural issues that it's important to be aware of no matter where you go?
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to mention here quickly, Kelly, to your point is there's definitely a huge culture gap between all different countries. Everyone has a different types of things happening in terms of their holidays, their festivals. So whichever country you choose to work with, definitely get familiar with their culture in terms of what are their holidays, what are those festivals, how much time they're going to take off, because you really need to build in all those in your project planning. In US, we only take like 10 days off in reality throughout the year. but other parts of the world officially could be 10, 12, but they end up taking 15, 18 or whatever, So you definitely need to build in all those into your project pipeline, considering all those. And definitely, we need to respect their culture, make sure that they also, because it's very important. If they enjoy those, this is what we have found, in the festival time, let them enjoy, because then they come back very fresh and their production is much better on the later stage. So it's always good to have those kind of times off, but it's definitely good to know the culture of the different countries when you start working with the other part of the world.
And I think it's, as you said, Ronak, about appreciating and respecting that culture, and how that culture can also impact or influence their day-to-day work. It's part of it too, is it's fascinating to sometimes learn about some of these festivities and holidays from these other cultures from your own team. Had some great conversation where I learned a lot about other cultural events. But there's also the day-to-day operations. There are some places around the world that culturally are unlikely to be reachable in the evenings, because that's their family time. Ronak spoke about adapting his team's hours to those of Western companies, and if that's part of the culture and the operation of the business, great. That's fantastic. It's great to be that flexible. But if there are other companies, and you want to make sure you understand this ahead of time, where if it's 10 o'clock at night and your dev team is not going to be reachable because they're committed to their family at that time, you have to respect that too, and know that going into the engagement and the relationship, that's the team that you're going to be working.
Yes, absolutely important. And I know with our teams, we've always enjoyed kind of celebrating each other's holidays and learning about each other's holidays and figuring it out. But from a project perspective, you definitely want to know where they are. And in fact, whenever you work with any dev team, make sure you have a copy of their holiday schedules for the company, so that you actually can predict this in advance. Because, for example, when Ramadan comes and you're working with a company that has a large number of people of the Muslim faiths or Muslim, they take the whole month, basically, where they'll be in and out. Their hours are widely varied. And so it's important to make sure that you're accommodating for that in your project plans and not putting massive releases in that timeline, because you're going to miss out. And it's not the dev team's fault that that's happening. You need to make sure that you understand.
Yep. And also, I would like to cover a couple of things, Kelly and team here, is in terms of when you select any company, how do you really do the analysis of their teams and all those things? And then the contractual agreement. There are a number of things that I would like to bring it to the attention to the people and the founders, is whenever you start speaking to any company, even before even releasing your idea, make sure you have a NDA or MNDA, which is a mutual non-disclosure agreement, in place, because you definitely could have a great idea and you do not want to give that away before even signing the NDA in place. So once the NDA is signed, I would strongly recommend that NDA should be signed electronically, which is more you can hold responsible them for, so use DocuSign or anything that you really trust on. After the NDA is signed, whenever you start selecting your teams, you can always ask for the resumes. That, hey, I want to see the experience of your team. Who is going to work for me? Who is your BA? Who is your development, quality control, AWS architecture? And sometimes the founders are non-technical, and that's fine. Hey, go to Google, ask, find out 10 questions on ChatGPT and ask those 10 questions to those people to make sure that they should feel that you at least have some knowledge, and then most important part for the founder is to identify that this company that is giving you those resumes, they should be the employee of those company and not the contractors. Okay, if they are the contractors of the outsourcing company, if they live in the middle of your project, you are in big trouble, right? So you have to make sure that they are the employees of those companies. And there are a number of ways to verify. You can go to LinkedIn, and there are a number of other things you can ask the company, saying that, hey, can I even look at their legal contract with you, or any kind of offer letter that they have signed, or whatever, something like that. And they will give you whatever that are allowed by them to give you. And then another thing what we have found is these founders are having a hard time is, they're working in some part of outside of America, thousands of miles away. And if something goes wrong, or the employees of the company leave, or contractors leave, and then now they're absolutely unreachable, what's going to happen to your project? So I would recommend that this is something, it's personal decision, but you look for a company who has some ties in the land of America. Hey, if you need to have someone who is present in US, and the most important part, when you sign a contract, if you're signing a contract in the other part of the world, something goes wrong, you're not going to go to chase them down in the international court. If you can sign a contract within the land of US, so there are a number of outsourcing companies who are actually American companies. So for like our company, Agile is a US based company with the offshore team. So you try to emphasize to sign the contract within US land. So you are protected by the laws of US. And then if something goes wrong, at least you can challenge them. Not that we really want anything to go wrong, but it's something to protect yourself, that, hey, something that you can always count on. So that's a very important part that I wanted to cover here. I also mentioned that, make sure their employees check the company's certification. Try to see even if the company has AWS any kind of certification, because that gives you more confidence that, yes, this company is a long-term in the business and certified company with AWS or whoever, so that makes your life more easier while selecting this company. I have a number of other things that I would like to cover, but I'll hand it over to Kelly and team for other topics.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Tim, you've always, as long as I've worked with you, you've always looked for resumes and looked for the qualifications of people you're working with. How else do you evaluate beyond the resumes when you're given a team, when a group is proposing a team to you? What else do you look for other than just resumes?
Absolutely. And Ronak at the very beginning spoke of understanding the executive leadership of the company you're working with, even before you end up in team selection. A big part of team selection is also continuity. And that comes down to, again, understanding the company that you're looking to outsource to. If that company is all of 3 engineers, and you're looking to hire 3, if one of those leaves, you don't have a replacement available. So you want to understand what the company's practices are for hiring, where they source their engineers. You don't want them to outsource, as Ronak also said. Are they hiring on demand? If you say, I have a project, I need 5 engineers, is the company going to ask you for the technical stack? What are the experience levels? And then go out and try to find those engineers for you? Or are they working with a bench where we have 3 of those people available? They can start Monday. We'll look for the other 2. What does that look like? Because even getting the project started, you have to understand, are you starting in a couple of days or are you starting in a month? And that can vary a lot based on the company you're working with and their own hiring process.
Yes, so there are a couple of things I wanted to mention quickly, team, here is whenever these founders, when you sign the contract with any company, outsourcing company, make sure the IP, the copyrights, everything stays with you guys. That's very important, otherwise you can really invite trouble. So make sure that all the code that is being developed by the outsourcing company is owned by the founders. So it's very important to make sure it's covered into the contractual agreement, and it should be protected that way.
You're muted, Kelly.
Sorry about that. I've sat in front of a founder. It's absolutely critical that you do exactly that, because I've had conversation with a founder who had experience in development before, wasn't new to this, he built software before, but hadn't outsourced before, worked with a team that was recommended to him by a friend, which recommendations are great. You should be checking recommendations, checking references with whatever team you hire. Who literally burst into tears when I had to explain that his code was sitting on his dev team servers and in their repositories, and all the documentation was sitting on their side, and that he had gotten into a contractual kind of scuffle with the team that they had all of his IP sitting on their systems, and that he was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place from a contractual perspective because he didn't have his own stuff at all and had no way of getting to it. So
Right. So we deal with large healthcare companies, law firms. We work with a number of mid and large companies and some Fortune 500 companies clients as well right now. Along with the startups, we manage a number of different level of clients. And what we have seen is number of clients now, they set up their own infrastructure. So our team basically logs into through the VPN to their infrastructure, and we do all coding directly onto their server. So you're fully protected. Make sure that you set that up from the beginning. You may think that, hey, there is a cost involved, but that cost is really gonna pay you off for sure. So all the coding should be done on your servers, on your infrastructure, so you do not have to go and beg for things on the later stage. So make sure that you really protect yourself. And another thing I wanted to really mention quickly is we work with a number of different clients in US, and there are times that we fly our teams to US. So make sure that you never know, your product could go so big in short period of time, and now you need people to come here, help you out, presentation, whatever you're doing, number of things, and you need 2-3 people to fly right up. So you should select a company who has the ability to send the people within 2 weeks of demand. Say, in 2 weeks, I really need people. So something like that, or the company should have an onshore team and offshore team, both model or a hybrid model at the time.
I've actually experienced. Yeah, I wanted to comment on that specifically because I've done that in the past too, where we brought an engineer from India to the U.S. Not so much for a specific event, but to actually embed himself in the team and in the Western culture. He actually stayed onshore here in the Atlanta area for nearly 3 months, working with the team. And we had, I recall, about 7 other engineers still in Hyderabad. When he returned, he was absolutely an evangelist for the culture that the onshore team had. It was absolutely amazing to go back and see that individual who had been here in the U.S. go back and start poking all his coworkers to speak up more and to ask more questions and to be more vocal. Just a relatively short stay in the U.S. Made a huge difference in his engagement with the team and then what he was able to bring back with him when he went back to India.
Yeah, that really makes sense, man. And that's the beauty of what we bring on the table as well. Because I'm a founder of this company. I started in 2006, but before that, I'd spent 10 years working with Charles Schwab, Citibank, Xerox Corporation. So I exactly knew the culture of working 10 years in the US with large corporate companies. And we emphasize the same level of structure and culture with our team across US and India to make sure that what are the expectations of client and how you meet those expectations, even though you are thousands miles away, so it's very important. And what we usually like is, so we have number of clients and we actually request them once in a while, like, after a couple of years of journey to see, hey, can you even visit our offshore office or India office, or Dallas office or whatever, wherever they have time. Like when they've spent 2 or 3 days, even in our India office, they exactly understand. And this brings a lot of bonding together between the founders or the larger companies that we deal with and the teams. And what we have seen is after they meet in person, the relationship goes much stronger. So even, as I said, we support till 1 p.m. Eastern, but there are days that, we are launching and my team is available throughout the whole day in Eastern time, because now they have been working very closely with the founders in the US and, they really want to support. So it sometimes makes sense that, after a few months or a year of journey, you definitely want to meet team at least once.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And it really, when it comes right down to it, you want your dev team to be your partnership in whatever's going on in your business. Be honest about what's going on in your business. Talk to your team about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to build, what the purpose behind the company is. What is your North Star? What makes you excited about it? These are the types of things that get your team excited too. And when they're excited about it, they take ownership. And you want your team to feel like and act like they're just as much of a steward for your company as you are.
Yes, yes. And there are a couple of things I wanted to discuss about the project process quickly, Kelly and team. Because, okay, you identified the team, you liked the resumes, you took the interview, and now you started the whole project planning and project work is going on. Now, what are the things that you really need to be careful when the project is in the development plan? So when the project is going on, the first important thing is you need to make sure that there is proper documentation done for all the modules which are being developed. Trust me, you may think that, hey, no, I don't want to spend few hours for document, but it is very important. It really very, very important the later stage when somebody comes even acquire you or somebody comes for funding, they're going to look for all those things. So you have to make sure your system documentation in place and the code which is being written, make sure that code is well commented. You may think that, hey, founder may think that I'm not a tech person, but it's easy to learn things from YouTube videos, and then you can even do the analysis of how the code is being commented. So it's not a rocket science. It's pretty simple. Or even you can pay someone a few hours, hey, check this code. Whatever the way you want to do it. Another thing is, any project which is going on, make sure that there is a tech leadership team or senior tech lead or project manager assigned to that project. Because, you may have 8, 10, 15, 20 people working on your project, but who is ultimately responsible for the delivery, right? So don't try to cut the corner saying that, okay, I don't want to have a project manager part-time and make that payment. It's worth it because that person is going to execute the project properly and do deliverables on time. Because otherwise you have a team of 20, 30 people, and who is going to be responsible if somebody does not deliver? The project manager. Yeah, you may not need a full-time manager. It's okay. You can just hire a part-time manager from the same company who is responsible for all the deliverables all on time. Another thing, what I would really strongly recommend that we have seen, I understand the founders definitely have a hard time in the journey of funding, because either they are bootstrapping or they are still waiting on the real funding. And they may say that, hey, we cannot have a QA person because we're going to do our QA in-house. I understand, it's fine. You can do it in-house QA, but only up to a certain period of time. Not when the product gets bigger and bigger and bigger, there is no way. I've seen it because the quality control people's mindsets are very different than the founders and the developers. They are real hackers. They really are for that, to crack the system or find crazy things inside it. So make sure that you emphasize on the quality control team. And so we have an ISTQB certified quality control team. So even if you can find ISTQB certified, that would be the best, right? If not, it's okay. But, try to make sure that the quality control team is assigned on your project. And developers are not only testing, or the founders are not only testing the system, because it's not only functional testing. We are talking about the stress testing, volume testing, black box testing, all these cyber threats or the hackers that are coming to a system, they can come and take all of your data away. And that can bring a lot of crazy problems on your system or from your clients, So you want to avoid all those lawsuits. So make sure that quality control is a part of the process, right? And as I say, onshore, offshore mixed model is available. You can always take a mixture of model or just only take offshore if you're in the beginning phase, later on add onshore or something. But the project process planning should be done using the project management tools. So either you think of using Asana, Jira, Monday.com, whatever you feel like, Trello, whatever you are comfortable with. And
Exactly.
Use Kiksasa, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an amazing platform which is absolutely embedded with AI technology, right? So you would have amazing, like Kiksasa is, I would say, not only project management tool, it has every single thing that I can think of. Okay, it's a full hand-holding process from registering your company all the way through development, marketing, and all the law practice. Everything is covered as a part of the platform. So think of getting a platform where you can track the team's progress and see what's going on. Because sometimes you may think that I do not have a time to have a scrum call every day. I have my other commitments. I have my full-time job, or I have some doing other things. You may not have a time to spend every day a stand-up call with your team, but at least plan 2 calls a week. And then remaining things can be tracked on the project management tool. So make sure that you have the project management tool in place.
Tim, you've been a CTO for a number of startups, mostly in fintech, but in general have led technical teams for a very long time at this stage. What is different being now that you're actually running your own software company, where you're founder and you're actually running a dev team for somebody else and another startup? What do you think are the big differences in terms of how you've had to change the way you manage the team, how you approach hiring a team, now that you're the guy that's doing it, you're the guy that's in charge?
There are a lot of similarities as when working with other startups, that, it's always about enabling the team, and you want a team that's going to be delivering high quality, delivering on schedule, etc. I think where the difference is my personal time commitment. When I'm CTO of another startup and there's a executive team for marketing and sales and HR and leadership, great. I get to focus on the engineering. Then I am strategist, architect, and project manager. But as a founder, we take on a lot more roles along with it. And you take on financials and fundraising and networking and webinars, for example. So you really have to, or I have to make sure I have a team that I can trust to bring up issues proactively, to raise flags and say, hey, I think we've got a problem. That's one type of escalation. But another one that is underappreciated in a lot of outsourcing is enabling your team to say, hey, are you sure that's what you want us to do? There are a lot of outsourced teams that will do whatever you tell them to do, whether you're right or wrong. If you provide a mock-up that has a typo in it, you'll get the typo in your final product. And as a founder, especially even more important now, it's, can I trust my team to raise issues when I'm wrong, or when I'm giving direction that they feel or think is not right, or might know a better way to do that. We really have to enable the leadership in the outsourced team itself and trust them with it.
Yeah, super point, team. We would say that this is a very, very collaborative approach which is required. So as a founder, you don't try to be a ringmaster. You work as a team member. Even though it's your product, it's your ownership, we understand. But give the offshore team or whoever you're working with as an feeling like an ownership, saying that, hey, this is your product as well. This is your baby as well. So let's raise it together. So once they have that level of confidence, if they don't have a fear, they're always going to tell you that, hey, whatever you are saying, this may not be a right way to do that. Because otherwise, if you're more like a dictator or saying, hey, this is how I want it to be done, outsourcing team or offshore team would shy away saying, okay, we'll do it because you're asking us. But if you put more like a trust structure, collaborative structure, or give them an ownership right, they will raise the flags before something goes wrong. So it's a very good point, Tim. Thank you.
And you get to take advantage of the creativity of the team. When you are running a dictatorship for your engineering team and you say, do it the way I said, period, you are actually not taking advantage of the talents of your team. You are dropping skills on the floor and wasting time and wasting talent by just not utilizing the people around you. And when you're a founder, you want to utilize everybody around you, sometimes whether they want to or not.
Yeah, perfect. Kelly, you can go ahead. Otherwise, I have a couple of things that I wanted to mention as well about the models that should be available with any outsourcing team. So we've been asked this. I'm going to mention a couple of models too on this call, which is being asked by a number of our clients. One is ODC and one is BOT. So I'll quickly explain why when they would come and ask for this kind of models. So any projects, which is, like say we were working with one aviation company, that aviation company really wanted to have everything in secured structure, even in our company. So it's being outsourced, but even in our facility, it should be in the secured zone. So no one should be able to even go into that zone, not even the CEOs or anyone else. Even I can't even go in. So all those outsourcing company make sure that if you have those kind of high level confidential projects being developed, it's called Secured Offshore Development Center. So, there are only people who has an access to that area are able to go in and are able to access the code or whatever it is. So it's called Secured ODC. So if you have a project which really requires that kind of confidentiality, you always can ask your outsourcing company that do you even have a Secured ODC setup? If yes, show me or even try to visit that, if it really requires. There's another model which is called BOT model, which not every company would really help you with, but sometimes they do. So for example, BOT is a build, operate, and transfer model. So for example, if you're developing your product, but you are visionary saying that, okay, after 2 or 3 years down the road, I will have my own team of 100 developers, 200. So whatever, company gonna grow big, big and big. Then you can always sign a contract with the company, outsourcing company saying that I want a BOT model. But BOT model is, okay, I will sign a contract with you for 2 years. But after 2 years, I will have my own company set up in that part of the world. And this team that I'm hiring, those 20 people will come on my payroll or something. Yeah, there are definitely contractual obligations or some kind of payments that would require that company to take those 20 people away or whatever. But if your vision is too big, then you can always ask for BOT model as well. And yeah, some of the companies don't even offer that because it's too much crazy, but some of the companies do offer them. So it's always make sure that you have that. And there are a couple of things. Another thing that I want to mention quickly here is check the ratings of the company as well. Sometimes it's very important. Somebody recommended you, okay, this company is good. I know the founder, I know the CEO of this outsourcing company. Sometimes Google or other platforms would speak about them, so check Google ratings. Google is kind of, I would say it's not really a right way to check because anybody can go on Google and put 1 star, 5 star. Go to a better platform like Clutch. Now, Clutch is a platform. Yeah, Clutch is a platform who, if anybody wants to put a review, they actually take a call with that company and it's a 1-hour process. They go through a project investigation, project details, and then they actually let them put the reviews on. So it's a very, very thorough process. So Clutch is a good platform to check. There are other platforms, good firms, and you can check on if there's Gartner has any information, you can check on Gartner as well. So depending on where you're checking, but it's very important to do that. And yeah, go ahead, Kelly. I think you're trying to.
Yeah, I was going to say actually with Clutch, that if you're going on a platform like Clutch, the people that are there that putting reviews, and we've done reviews for dev teams before on Clutch, it is an extensive process. It is not a quick little write a paragraph and throw it up on Clutch kind of deal. I don't know of a single executive who writes one of those that has a problem if you reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw you reviewed this company. What did you really think? What can you tell me that you didn't write? Because I'm considering it themselves. Founders should talk to founders. It's one of the reasons why we put, for example, in Kiksasa, the ability for people to contact each other across the entire platform. Is because that way we can say, hey, I'm talking to this person. Does anybody have an experience with this team? How did they work for you? How did they operate? What did you need to do to help them kind of work their way through? Tap into those folks. Most of us that hire dev teams on a regular basis are more than happy to tell you the things that we love, the things that were horror stories, if we've had them, and we all had them somewhere along the line. We're more than happy to share that information because it really does help build better software, help build better companies, and it helps build better relationships.
Excellent.
Sorry,
go ahead, Kelly. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly cover one part that very important for founders is when you are selecting a company and wherever you're signing a contract, one thing that you want to keep in part of that, saying that, okay, you found a company who has maybe several hundred people or whatever, and large established company. Check how soon they can scale if you scale. Okay, you hired 10 people, now they're busy, they have 200 people, they're busy all on the projects, and now certainly you think that you got the funding and now you need another 20 people to ramp up and you want in 3 months the whole deliverable. What happens? So that should be part of the contractual agreement that, hey, if I scale, I give you 3 weeks of time to ramp up the team members or whatever. There are different arrangements can be done as a part of contract, but that's something, a number of companies may not do it if they don't know that they can't scale fast enough, because all scalability of the companies are also based on their market reputation. So if they're a really strong company in the market, people would come and work for them quickly. Otherwise, they have a hard time when finding the right resource or talent. So that's very important.
Right. So we have a question coming up on the screen over here. How do we know when your experience with the dev team is going sour? How do we know that it's gone off the rails? Tim, I really would like to hear your opinion on this, and I can give mine from a CEO's perspective, but especially from somebody who, gives the CEO the bad news if something's going crazy. What are those warning signs to you, basically?
Yeah, the first one that I pick up on is a drop in communication. It comes back to that trust element we were talking about before. If you don't have a trusting relationship with your team, people start getting nervous and scared about delivering bad news. So the communication starts to fade out. People get quiet, they get cagey, shorter answers to questions. They don't want to explain things. And that's when you start to wonder, okay, what's going on? Why aren't people talking? And you really have to kind of dig in and see, okay, what's going on? And if you've established the right trust relationship, hopefully that's not a fear situation for the engineers. And you get that communication, and that communication continues to flow. But if you see a drop, that's when you start scheduling additional meetings, contact your account manager or project manager, and say, hey, let's have a call. Let's talk. Let's see what's going on with the team. If you're concerned about the appearances, just say it's a check-in, which is totally fine and completely legit. And every founder should be checking in with their account manager on a regular basis, not just about, okay, how are the deliverables going, but how is the relationship going? And anytime you should be able to reach out to your account manager and ask them to feel out the team. And even if you want to do that, just directly with the account manager and ask them to feel out the team. How's the team feeling? Are there any issues that we need to address or that we need to know about? So you don't want to make assumptions either about why communication or other quality issues might be dropped off. So give the benefit of the doubt a bit, but contact your account manager and try to figure out what's going on.
Ronak, what is a sign that you see with a relationship with a client?
Yes.
Still it's both ways, so.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would definitely even speak from the founder side to begin with, is try to make sure whenever you are working with a team, don't try to take people who are like assigned on part-time basis on your project. Project manager is fine, because you don't want to spend a whole lot of amount, but the team members that are working on your product, whether it's a development, quality control, or other parts, BAs or whatever, try to make sure they're dedicatedly assigned for your project. If you see so much of gaps, saying that, okay, this guy is supposed to work 40 hours, but you only spent 20 hours this week, that means they are being assigned or working on some other projects. Or being a founder, if you see abrupt leaves from your team, okay, it can happen. They may get sick, but it cannot happen every day or every week. Okay, that means something else is being cooked, or that company is losing interest, or whatever it may be. So those are the signs that as a founder, you must look to make sure that the team is assigned with you for your project on the dedicated basis, and there are no gaps, or the team is being shared between number of projects, because then they lose the momentum. If they're only working 20 hours a week for you, then their mind is geared for another project, and then when they come back to your project, they have to relearn what they did in those 20 hours, because it's a mind. They have to refresh everything, and so they're losing again a time. So make sure that that's very important part. And the other part of what we have seen from our point of view or the client point of view is, we as a company, we also have to be careful because we have our bills to pay, expenses to pay, So when we see a number of companies who are working perfectly fine, the relationship is going great for a number of months or number of years, but when there are payment delays, we may stay there for 1 or 2 or maximum 3 months, but after that, we cut the notes saying that, okay, we can't do, even though you're a great client, because that we can't pay our bills or expenses. And we have seen that number of times happen to us where, the bigger companies do not tell us what's going on, and then they try to take the leverage of the relationship as well. So be honest. I would say be very honest because people who have done your product development will not get paid, if you don't do it well. And we have seen even the other part, okay? I would say as one healthcare care company where we developed a very large product for remote patient monitoring system. That company got acquired by a publicly traded company in US. And that company was so good. They came to us. It's a 6 years of journey working with you guys. Now we are being acquired by someone else. So the founders are moving out, but they compensated very little, but to the development team who did that whole product development, so the team was so happy that they did amazing things for this company, which were acquired, but at the same time, the founders compensated them with a token of appreciation of some kind of amount, So it's a relationship that you build. That's what it really matters in the long term.
Okay. Well, we're reaching our time now. So really what we're talking about here is that it's not hard necessarily to evaluate, select, outsource, and also manage a team to success. We've done it, Tim. I produce Kiksasa now, which actually helping right now hundreds of people in the software industry, but specifically the startup industry, people in the startup ecosystem, work together, form relationships, manage their programs, manage their companies in a single pane of glass. So while we do that, Ronak, Tim and I both have to thank you because you've helped us along that path all the way through. It's a gorgeous application. People love it. It's doing some amazing things right now. Some amazing founders. So very much appreciate that. In terms of if you could say 3 words to the people in the audience right now about software development on an offshore basis, what would they be?
So I would suggest that, in the software development world, it is tricky if you don't select the right company to work with. It's a very seamless and smooth process. If you do your due diligence in the beginning, and then you're always in good hands. So like Kiksasa, Kelly, we met maybe 4 years back in Atlanta, and we started our relationship. And because of our relationship, I know how many clients you referred to. And we survive on the referrals. In reality, we can't really compete on Google or Clutch because there are thousands and thousands of companies, right? So make sure that you really put in your time finding the right partner in the beginning. Make sure the copyrights, contractual agreements, NDAs, you go through the resumes of the people. You may have to put a little more time in the beginning, but the remaining journey gets much, much, much simpler.
Okay, Tim, final word.
If we go back to the 3 words thing, it's just communicate. 3 times communicate. Ahead of time, when you're, as Ronak said, as you're doing your due diligence, as you're doing your planning, as you're communicating requirements, it's communication during development. It's making sure that you're checking in, that you understand the team's state, not just the product state. And Ronak had said earlier, it's hard for the founders to find time. You may not be able to meet every day. No, but you need to make time to meet with your team. That is your product, your business, your mission, your dream. You've got to make the time to communicate with your partners to make sure that you're going to be successful.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. For those of you in the audience, if you want to reach out to us, Tim and I are both available at tim@kiksasa.com and Kelly at kiksasa.com. Ronak, how should people find you if they need you?
Yeah, they can always find me on the LinkedIn, or they can always email me on ronak.shah@agileinfoways.com. Thank you very much, Tim and Kelly, for your time today, and have a wonderful session with you.
Thanks, Ronak.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes.